So many are still diving in every day.
From what I hear of this so-called Sea of Thieves, it's nothing but cursed crews, bloodthirsty mermaids.
Though 2019's Gears 5 was arguably the most visually impressive game on the Series X at launch, it remains a fantastic update of an already fantastic game that Xbox Series X owners shouldn't miss. The already gorgeous Gears of War sequel has been dialed up to take advantage of Microsoft's new console with better lighting, ray tracing, and 120 FPS support in versus multiplayer among its improvements. The bottom line is that if you skipped Gears 5 in 2019, the Series X is a great place to play it for the first time.
Enough with the warm-up. Time to catch us a real monster.
If you're looking for a solid, memorable Marvel game to play on your shiny new Xbox, Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy is well worth your time and money. A love letter to the 1980s, this single-player action game with some RPG elements is easy to pick up and play. The gameplay is fast-paced and rewarding, but the heart of what makes Guardians shine is its story and characters. Eidos's take on the Marvel crew certainly shows its inspirations from the comics and MCU versions, but finds enough unique depth in these characters to make this iteration of them so memorable. There's charm aplenty in playing as Star-Lord and getting to interact with the other members of the Guardians, learning about their lives, finding common ground, and in coming together as a makeshift family. And let's not forget the soundtrack is full of 80s mega hits, including a fictional band's entire original album that will have you jamming until the credits roll. One of the greatest technical achievements in video games continues to get better in massive and meaningful ways. Developer Asobo's commitment to improving what's already a masterpiece goes above and beyond bug fixes and simple content additions. New planes, new airports, new sites to discover and take in makes this globe-trotting simulation more realistic with each new update. On top of the eye candy and excitement of new aircraft, Asobo is constantly updating and improving the simulation aspects of what is already the most incredible simulation of all time. Whether you want to grab an Xbox controller and spend some time taking in the vastness of the globe, or you want to go full dad energy and build a simulated cockpit in your game room, Microsoft Flight Simulator meets and exceeds everyone's needs, regardless of playstyle.
How was your day?
Great. The toaster broke and Rose refused to eat her vegetables.
If you've got an Xbox Series, you need to play It Takes Two with a friend or loved one, either on the couch or via online play, since of course, It Takes Two cannot be played alone. Not because it's the biggest graphical showcase on the new console block, but because it is simply one of the best and most unique multiplayer experiences you can find these days. Writer-director Joseph Fares, yes, he of F the Oscars fame, follows up the great A Way Out with this, a story about a failing marriage that might just be able to be saved thanks to the couple being turned into children's dolls and forced to work together to find their way back to their human forms. It Takes Two finds new inventive ways to make cooperative play core to its level and puzzle design around every turn. You're not just two players engaging in the same mechanics the whole way through. The entire adventure is specifically built to offer each player bespoke experiences that must be completed together to progress. And those ideas are regularly thrilling and surprising as the memorable adventure continues on. Play it and we promise you'll smile. Tunic's most surface influence is obvious, but Tunic also draws from other great modern games. Its punishment for death is very Souls-like in its design, and late-game puzzles closely resemble games such as Fez or The Witness, with how it develops its own unique language that the player must decipher. But Tunic's greatest element is its most unique. Hidden throughout the world are pages of an NES-like paper game manual. Each page contains something crucial, a puzzle clue, an essential map, a secret entrance, and quite often the pages reveal something hidden in plain sight, teaching you about how Tunic's secrets work so you can discover more on your own. Tunic constantly reminds you that you are in a video game and plays up that theme in numerous clever ways, smashing through fourth walls like so many bombable cracks in a Hyrulean mountainside.
Mesdames et messieurs, faites vos jours.
Don't worry, Agent Forsyth. I can fix this.
Psychonauts 2, the sequel to the 2005 cult hit, had already been crowdfunded when Microsoft purchased developer Double Fine Productions in 2019. But with the added resources and time that Xbox HQ offered, Psychonauts 2 was able to fulfill its maximum potential that fans waited 15 years to finally see. And that potential was to be one of the best games on the platform. The sequel isn't just a great return to Double Fine's imaginative world. Protagonist Raz's story is emotional, layered, and funny as ever in Psychonauts 2, with a wonderful cast of new and returning characters. And that story unfolds through a series of surprising, complex, and punny levels which take advantage of Psychonauts 2's clever and more nuanced platforming. In short, legendary game designer Tim Schafer and the team at Double Fine didn't just deliver for the pocket of patient Psychonauts fans, they delivered for all players. They did it. Those crazy sons of guns actually did it. Halo Infinite survived its publicly tumultuous development cycle and emerged as exactly the reinvigorating breath of fresh air that the franchise desperately needed after a 6-year layoff, as well as a supremely disappointing campaign the last time out in Halo 5. Infinite delivers on the promise of a go-anywhere Zeta Halo ring in its open and memorable campaign, offering enough activities to make sure you've always got something to do without bogging you down in fetch quests. The grapple shot grappling hook is the biggest new addition to the gameplay mechanics, bringing new mobility options as well as combat choices. Meanwhile, the rest of the equipment harkens back to Halo 3 in the best of ways. The free-to-play multiplayer has faced some setbacks due to its lengthy seasons, but it has so far boasted some stellar maps, scores of cosmetic customization, and the promise of future content support as 343 continues to work to improve the experience. Halo needed a home run, and Infinite bashes the oddball far over the fence. Forza Horizon 5 isn't just the best game of 2021 as IGN's 2021 Game of the Year winner, it's also the best car game, period, of at least the last decade. The difference between Horizon 5 and other racing games not named Forza Horizon is that it is in fact a driving game. And yes, there's a difference between a driving game and a racing game. Driving can include racing, and FH5 most certainly does, but perhaps the greatest of its many triumphs is successfully tapping into a love for cars. But you don't need to be a gearhead with a nose for adjusting tire temperatures and maximizing downforce, as you do in simulation racers. Here, there's quite literally fun around every corner, whether it's trying to best your buddy's photo radar speed, busting through one of the countless billboards scattered around Horizon's gorgeous fictionalized Mexico, entering proper Horizon Festival events, or just doing goofy multiplayer events. Forza Horizon 5 is as chill and casual or as serious and hardcore as you want it to be, and that's a near impossible feat for any car game. Whether you're a longtime fan of From Software's notoriously challenging games or intrigued by the constant buzz, Elden Ring is a fantastic starting point for seeing what the Soulsborne genre is all about, thanks to its streamlined onboarding of new players, versatility in accommodating playstyle, and open-world design that alleviates the brick wall dilemma of getting stuck on a difficult boss. Stuck? Make a note on the jaw-droppingly large in-game map using a variety of pins, and simply go somewhere else. It's that elasticity that make this From Software adventure a slightly friendlier one, full of godlike bosses looking to snuff out your life, a deceptively large map, and intriguing NPCs rife with charm, mystery, and tragedy. Elden Ring offers the same journey and main quest for all who pick up the controller, But the character customization and open world design and how it allows the player to approach that journey is what makes everyone's quest through the lands between personal and memorable.
Champions! Welcome! A celebration of war! Obrigado Festival!
And that's our list! If you want to check out our full written list of our top 15 Xbox Series X games, head on over to IGN.com. But what are some of your favorite Xbox Series X games? Let us know in the comments, and also be sure to check out our list of the top 10 PlayStation 5 games as well. Thanks for watching, and for everything else, keep it right here on IGN.
Hello! Today we will show you a bit of the new There Is No Light gameplay, along with a couple of unseen locations. Hope you'll enjoy what we prepared for you. Now, we are located at Frontier. Pilgrims from all Underworld gather there to take their path to Messiah, their savior. But Solar Core kill any heretic they can catch. We took a secret path through caves to reach the Pilgrim's camp. Along the hero's way, he will meet many people and creatures who need his support. Help or not is your choice, which will affect the hero's karma. Karma will be needed in future, so be mindful of your choices and decisions. First, Pilgrim's Camp. Here, you can gather some information about Messiah, Pilgrims, and the Lighthouse of Hope. Some people can give you subquests with great rewards, so don't miss them. Here they are. Cannibals. They may look funny and stupid, but bloodlust made them very dangerous and aggressive. Here, you can see Karma Door, which can be used as a shortcut. For using these doors, the hero pays with his karma. Cannibals have strange architecture. They build their houses on top of each other, and that brings many conflicts among them. A tough fight ahead. Let's battle through it. Pilgrims believe that to clean your soul, you should look into holy water and reject any evil within you. I think our hero has many secrets because his evil side is tough as hell. There Is No Light is coming out this year.
A new Starfield developer diary just dropped, and with it a whole bunch of new exciting info about the game. Here are 9 details we learned from Todd Howard and the dev team. The characters that inhabit Starfield's universe are set to be a major step up from previous Bethesda games. The dev team is using similar photogrammetry techniques to what they use for landscapes for creating human characters. It sounds like some big decisions are going to be made at the beginning of your Starfield journey when it comes to character creation. Todd Howard mentions going
back to some things we didn't do, the backgrounds, the traits.
In Bethesda's previous games, these range from the traits and stats you pick to what faction you're going to align yourself with. Some of Starfield's major factions have been revealed in more detail. First up is the United Colonies, a representation of an idealized version of the future of the Space Republic. They are the most established political and military faction in the galaxy. The Freestar Collective was the enemy of the United Colonies in the colony war that precedes the events of Starfield. They even have a space western aesthetic and live out on the frontier. Ryujin Industries is a mega corporation that doesn't look too far removed from something seen in Blade Runner or Cyberpunk. The devs have teased that Ryujin has one of the best starts of any faction, as you apply for a job and have to see if you can cut the mustard. Not just enemies in the game, the Crimson Fleet is also a joinable space pirate faction. Joining them doesn't automatically make you an evil person in the world of Starfield though. Sure, you can play the bad guy and follow their orders if you like, but you also have the option to be a double agent of sorts and report back to one of the less evil factions. In other words, you can be a big ol' space snitch. You'll be able to meet numerous companions on your journey through Starfield. They'll make off-the-cuff comments as you explore and generally aid the feeling of immersion, just like all the best characters in Bethesda RPGs do. One of those companions has been revealed in the form of Vasco. A polite-sounding droid, he definitely seems more of the C-3PO end of the scale than Hal when it comes to friendly AI. Let's just hope he stays that way. An evolution of sorts of the Oblivion Persuasion minigame, a new conversation mechanic will have you trying to persuade other characters. Bethesda says this will make each dialogue encounter more involving. Whether this minigame is stats or skill-based is yet to be revealed. This is everything we've learned from the latest Starfield developer update, but there's obviously still so much we're yet to find out about. What are you most excited about in Starfield? Let us know in the comments, and remember, for more Starfield, stay tuned to IGN.
I always say that the music is the fourth dimension. It is the emotional dimension. And so in order to create this, you have to ask these questions. Where are you going? You know, what's your motivation? What is your story? What is really pushing us? This is what really drove me more than anything else. These huge questions, they're as big as space.
Everything I've worked on at this studio, the music started very early on, as early as the concept art for the game from when I began here in 2005. At that time, Oblivion was already well underway, but as we went on to Fallout 3 after that, that was one of the first things I worked on music-wise was the main theme, and that's always been the case, where the main theme sets the tone for everything else we do in the game. And there's time throughout the entire project for that to evolve.
That's true, and I remember like during the Fallout 4 visit, which was actually in 2012, I was wandering through the corridors and I basically stumbled into the artist's room. And it was the first time I actually saw them do what they're doing. I was captivated. I was like, wow, I mean, this is really what it is all about. And I felt so inspired and motivated basically to go back and, you know, to do the same thing with the palette of music. The biggest challenge is actually creating the signature.
I relax a lot once
Exactly.
we feel good about the main thing, because the rest is going to, it'll be work and iteration, but it's going to write itself.
The way I looked at Starfield always is what I called the sanctified triplet, which is everything is streaming, right? Everything is changing and everything is returning back. Ta-da, ta-da, here's your development. And then ta-da, and back. So basically it presents itself, it develops, it goes back.
The circular.
Is exactly, some sort of like a circular journey.
You go out, you adventure, discover, return.
Yes, there's always the strive to go back home. And that's, I mean, I guess that's what feels so complete for us, right? We want to complete the mission. We want to complete our journey. We will find something, we will discover something, we'll take it with us, and we will go back home with it. When we built the traditional orchestral sound palette, we actually really divided the orchestral group. For example, took the woodwinds, okay? And we created like a whole woodwind layer that almost represents particle in space, because they don't play melodies at all. They play sort of like a high frequency sequence, you know, like together. So they almost don't sound like woodwind. They sound something between organic to synthetic. Then the strings, they will play this long chords or long melodies and long crescendos and diminuendos. And these kind of things along the line with the fast moving woodwinds will create a nice blanket around these waves, okay? And then comes the brass. And the brass, especially the French horns, playing sort of like the beacon, you know, the call of the brass.
Those instrument groups as well. A lot of times when you are looking at that whole main theme, I'm kind of salivating thinking about what can I do with that on the sound design side, you know, not just to weave the main theme into different key points in the game, leveling up, discovering new places. Could we use that as straight up sound design to take those woodwind tremolos and just let's slow them way down, let's reverse them. I'll take any of that music and turn it into ambience somewhere. The music is like the companion. It's the companion to the player in the single-player game. We don't have control over how the player chooses to experience the game. Our sense of scale had to be totally readjusted in making a game on a planetary surface as we've always done before, and now where you have these very vast distances against this black, starry background. It is a blank canvas and a massive playground, and all the pieces are there for you to write your own story. Whether you jump right in and you wish to follow the main quest, the main story, and go to the obvious. One point leads to another, leads to another. The music has a funny way of playing the right chord change at the right time, and a lot of that just happens at random. You look over the valley at just the right moment, and that just happens to be when this one chord change happens, and there are times like that that feel scripted, and they're not. And I like that each player has that experience for themselves personally.
I believe that the game is a whole experience, and music is part of the whole experience. I believe that the best music in a game is a music that you don't hear, music that you feel. This is something that is bigger than us. I mean, so many people worked on this game. And so my wish is that specifically the music will be present in a way that is going to magnify the entire experience.
Halo Infinite is finally here, and while a lot of it is the same Halo that we all know and love, both Master Chief and his enemies have some new tricks up their sleeves. To help you finish the fight, here are our tips to help you survive Halo Infinite's single-player campaign. Jackals are a menace in Halo Infinite. Luckily, there are some easy ways to deal with them. First, hitting them with your grapple shot will knock away their shield briefly, giving you a quick shot, or another opportunity to grapple in and finish them off. Secondly, if you have a pulse carbine, it's a hard counter to their shield as it disables them with just a quick burst. Apart from that, grenades also work too. In wide open battles, make sure to keep an eye out for sniper jackals hidden off in the distance. They are incredibly accurate and their shots do a huge amount of damage. Always make them priority number 1 in a firefight, whether by sniping them with your own long-range precision weapon or by using your grapple shot to make your way over to them and take them out from close range. During boss fights, or just fights against particularly nasty enemies, always make sure to scan the surrounding area to highlight where the weapons are. Chances are there will be a power weapon hidden around somewhere that will dramatically help you turn the tide of battle. When you're liberating an FOB, make sure to free the captive marine sooner rather than later. At worst, they serve as a good distraction, but they can often be a huge help when it comes to taking down the banished, especially if they manage to come equipped with a power weapon. And hey, if they suck, you can always just take the weapon away from them. Along those lines, if you're planning on attacking an enemy FOB, make sure to stop by a claimed FOB and load up a warthog with marines to help make the attack much easier. Your scan isn't just good for finding weapons, it's also super helpful when it comes to collectible hunting. Every collectible will give off a unique ping sound and will be highlighted in the scan. You may even wind up scanning a skull, which is rare, but if it happens, it will appear on your map so you can come back for it if you missed it. When it comes to upgrades, definitely look to upgrading your shield to max as soon as you can. After that, make sure to upgrade your grapple shot's cooldown because that 40% recharge rate makes a huge difference. We've also got a full video on how to master the grapple shot, which you can check out too. If you can, save an upgrade point for a tough fight or area. Using a Spartan Core upgrade automatically gives you a new checkpoint and completely refreshes your health and shields. Remember though, bringing up the attack menu doesn't pause the game. You will still have to hide away somewhere safe to bring it up. Don't forget about the explosive barrels. Grapple shotting a barrel and hurling it at enemies is an extremely effective way of either taking down the shields on a tough foe, dealing big damage to an even tougher foe, or clearing out a group of grunts all at once without costing you any ammo. Take your time in the open world before you move on to the next mission. Once you're in a mission line, it's typically a while before you're able to return to the open world and collect Spartan cores to upgrade your equipment. After you complete the mission titled The Sequence, you will not be able to return to Zeta Halo until after you complete the campaign. And there's no in-game warning about this, so make sure you've done everything you want to do before you get to that point. And finally, your equipment will often be the difference between life or death. Make sure you remember how to quickly navigate to each one so you'll be able to utilize them when the situation calls for it. If you're being sniped by jackals and you don't know from where, toss down a quick shield so you can safely search. If you're getting attacked by cloaked elites, make sure you're able to quickly toss down a threat sensor so it doesn't catch you off guard. And of course, you should always be ready to swap to the grapple shot to make use of its many functions, either as a quick getaway, a way to hijack vehicles from a distance, a weapon switcher, an explosive picker-upper, etc. And there you have it, 12 tips for Halo Infinite's campaign. Let us know some of your own hot tips in the comments, and while I've got you here, why not check out our aforementioned grapple shot tips video, along with our video showing you how to find all the skulls in the campaign. And for everything else, keep it here on IGN.
Hi, I'm Jeff Eleanor, Game Director at Warner Bros. Games Montreal, and today I'm really excited to share with you gameplay footage featuring Nightwing and Red Hood from our upcoming game, Gotham Knights. We're joining Nightwing, also known as Dick Grayson, midway through the game's story as he patrols our city. All of the knights can unlock heroic ways of getting around the city. For Nightwing, it's his glider, the Flying Trapeze. The Regulator's gang are engaged in a hacking crime, so it's time to bring some vigilante justice to the bad people. Each crime in Gotham Knights plays like a mini game mode with rules and optional objectives. Nightwing's fighting style is acrobatic. He ping-pongs around the battlefield. While you can play the whole game solo, you can also protect Gotham in co-op with a friend. Here's Red Hood. Red Hood gained new abilities after being resurrected by an assassin cult. Here, he uses Mystical Leap to move across the rooftop, springboarded by his own soul energy. Successful attacks and dodges build up my momentum bar below, and timing my strikes and combos correctly makes it build faster. Once the bar is full, heroes can unleash powerful abilities. Red Hood's ranged attacks are a little louder. He fires non-lethal rounds that still do a lot of damage. Here's Red Hood's barrage ability, which deals piercing damage to interrupt armored attacks. The UI you're seeing can be customized to your preferences. What's on screen is what I like, but you can set it the way you like. Now that we've prevented the Regulators from stealing data, let's follow Red Hood for a bit. The Bat Cycle is usable by all heroes in Gotham Knights. Let's watch Red Hood chase down a smuggling van in Southside neighborhood. Red Hood can unlock the ability to attach a bomb to thrown opponents, so he can detonate it with a shot later. It's a pretty good time. Now we're back at the Belfry, the hero's home base. This next sequence is from early in the game, as we're just discovering the Court of Owls. The Bat Computer runs the map of the city and lets us pursue challenges and advance the story. Nightwing is tracking his next story mission, investigating the Old Powers Club. The workbench is where we go to upgrade our equipment, making sure that we're ready for each new challenge through the game. Players find blueprints and crafting materials by taking on missions and fighting crime. Each blueprint has different stats, giving the player a wide range of cool choices for their individual strategy and style. Gear with mod slots is better because mod chips power up gameplay properties. At this point in the story, our characters are still processing the loss of Batman.
You could visit him?
I could what?
He went to yours when... You could visit his grave.
You haven't.
I'm not the one staring at the... You know.
Sometimes you're an idiot, Grayson.
Players can unlock fast travel to get around the city in a hurry with the Fast Bat.
Belfry, got anything court-related?
Court of Owls. A secret society as old as Gotham itself. Run the city behind closed doors. According to the old poem, anyway.
Okay, but how does that line up with what Penguin said?
If this all-powerful court really is out there, they might be the ones getting all those creeps out of Blackgate. Which means they've been getting away with murder for centuries.
I hear you. Fingers crossed we'll learn more at the Powers Club.
It's time for Nightwing to sneak into court territory. Stealth is always an advantage.
I'm in.
Be careful. Let us know if you find anything.
They have a few guards. For long lunch too, huh?
I'm not complaining. Nice to get a break once in a while.
So what do you think the poor bastard did?
What poor bastard? As far as I know, I just got a longer break.
Poor bastard. Wonder what that means.
Every hero has unique takedowns and finishing moves. Ambush strikes are faster than silent takedowns, but make more noise.
Now I can rummage in peace.
Augmented reality vision helps the heroes solve puzzles and investigate mysteries.
AR shows a trail of blood. I wonder what else it can see. There's something under the floor. The hatch is connected to some kind of network. There's got to be a way to open it.
Here we see Nightwing's elemental shockwave ability. It interrupts enemy armored attacks and deals elemental status effects.
Try this.
Cryo status freezes an enemy, taking them out of the fight for a while.
And done. A hidden staircase. That can't be good.
For anybody wondering how this fight looks with Red Hood, check this out.
Kill the intruders first. Then you can think about the rewards.
Red Hood takes on a Talon gladiator here, one of the Court of Owls' engineered superhuman assassins.
Wherever this belongs to must be in bad shape. Better hurry. That must be whoever they kidnapped.
Look at me! I made a mistake! I won't happen again!
Pre-order now and get the 233 custom Batcycle skin.
Zamora lies defeated, but her chained spirit still serves Macros. Use your spirit vision to reveal Zamora's influence on the realm. Bring the souls of the defeated to their final rest and unearth hidden treasures. What other secrets are hidden here? It's time to banish Zamora and free the Earth realm once and for all.
As Forza Horizon 5 crosses the finish line, the bar for open world racing has again been raised in so many different ways. A map of Mexico that's bigger, higher, and wildly more varied than any Horizon game yet. A fresh change to the way the Horizon Festival itself is gradually constructed, which results in more one-off events deliberately designed to showcase Horizon 5 at its very best. Improved tools that allow us to build completely custom events that can be more or less indistinguishable from those crafted by the developers themselves. An enormous visual upgrade, especially to lighting, tire smoke, and dust effects. Hundreds and hundreds of new custom parts, rims, and performance mods, and cars with more character than ever. Drastic sound improvements, better handling, more granular preferences and options, more online activities. It really is incredible across the board.
You just have to let go and enjoy the ride.
To understand just how big Forza Horizon 5 is, we have to briefly look back at Forza Horizon 4, which truly ballooned into an absolute colossus of a racing game back in 2018. Playground Games had taken the impeccable open-world racing of all the Horizon games to date, then stuffed in simulated seasons, a shared world multiplayer overhaul, and a shift in how the team told their mini-automotive stories. But that was day one. Playground then spent another 3 years cramming in even more things to do. The festival playlist, where new activities were available every week. The Eliminator, Horizon's very clever and effective take on bringing the Battle Royale format to a racing game. The Super 7, where we could participate in custom-built racing, driving, and stunt-based challenges made by others, plus create and share our own. What's impressive is that Forza Horizon 5 isn't just all this airlifted to a different part of the world, it's that it's all this and a remarkable amount more.
Look to the sky! Follow me and keep up!
The breadth of Playground's wonderfully diverse map of Mexico is exceptional, and it comes as an extremely exotic and interesting array of environments to get lost in after 3 years in Horizon 4's beautiful but broadly more uniform Britain. Horizon 5's tapestry of colourful locations and backdrops more closely resembles Horizon 3, but it feels noticeably more extensive than even Playground's remarkable 2016 riff on Australia. There's Baja, where the sun-baked tarmac hugs the coast as the parched, sandy desert blends into the beach, and Deep Jungle, where muddy tracks crisscross through ancient temples, abandoned airstrips, and thickets. There's the charmingly colourful city of Guanajuato and its maze-like network of cobblestone streets and tunnels, contrasted with a sleepy coastal town flanked by the ocean on one side and mangroves on the other. There's rolling green farmland, draped in crops and windswept grass, and also a picturesque gorge that looks like it's been plucked from a Western movie. There's the semi-arid desert of the map's interior, filled with towering cacti and stubborn shrubs, and the high and rocky volcanic peak of Gran Caldera. There's even a giant stadium for soccer practice. Back to Senna. Senna holds it, holds it, holds it! It's not exactly a perfect recreation, of course. As with all Horizon worlds to date, it pays no mind to reality, smooshing together a stylized vision of Mexico at its most interesting. But the result is a fantastic map, and the biggest in the series by far, by a striking margin. That size is best observed from atop the Gran Caldera volcano. The Playground Games team has stressed that it's the highest point in any Horizon game, but you won't have to take their word for it. Just drive up there and you'll see how much it dwarfs both Horizon 3's Blizzard Mountain and Horizon 4's Fortune Island expansions. The massive elevation change not only provides one of the best roads in the series to date, a switchback-filled mountain run I expect will become a drift mecca for the Sideways squad, but it's a killer display of Horizon 5's immense draw distance. I love games that make me feel small in a vast new space, and Horizon 5 does this very effectively. The garage is just as grand as the map itself, with well over 500 vehicles, and it's a selection that still handily eclipses all Forza Horizon's open-world racing rivals. Granted, there isn't a huge number of cars that are strictly new to the franchise, and those of us who stuck around Forza Horizon 4 every week for the last few years collecting every new car will have seen the lion's share of them before. But Playground has assuaged that slightly with the addition of a lot of new rim options and visual upgrades that may help breathe new life into cars you've seen a lot of previously. Changes to the livery editor also see it support higher resolution designs and graphics, but you still can't place decals on glass, which remains a shame. Between the cars and the map, however, Forza Horizon 5 is barnstormingly gorgeous on both fronts. On the Xbox Series X, that's true of both the 4K 30 frames per second quality mode and the 4K 60 frames per second performance mode. I've been playing mostly on the quality mode since the frame rate never ever wavers in either mode, remaining buttery smooth at all times and in all conditions, but know that the visual concessions in performance mode are generally so small you'd need to study freeze frames to spot the difference anyhow. It's tough to pick my favourite visual element of Horizon 5, but I think it might just be the drastically better smoke and dust effects, and especially how light interacts with the particles in the air. It looks brilliant. Of course, while Forza Horizon 5's show-stopping graphics are sucking most of the oxygen out of the room, there have been so many other improvements to the Horizon formula here, it's hard to know where to begin. The handling tweaks are deceptively extensive, with more authentic ABS braking, a snappier steering sensation, and suspension improvements that have resulted in a more convincing feel off-road. The radically revamped audio is superb, and the amount of cars that now sound blatantly different to each other has exploded. I especially love hearing the changes my performance parts are making to my car's sound in real time, nerdy behaviour which is encouraged by the ability to rev the engine during upgrade work. Even before launch, the new event building tools are already resulting in some outstanding and creative courses, races and activities being shared between early players. With considerably more props and far more granular options than Horizon 4's building tools, I'm expecting some of the user-generated content for Horizon 5 is going to be mind-bendingly good. A rethink in how the career mode unfolds has seen Playground add a new point system that allows you to take charge of what event hubs and special races you want to prioritise unlocking. These points, or accolades, are awarded for achieving major and minor feats, and essentially function as a dramatically expanded version of the brick challenges in Forza Horizon 4's LEGO expansion. What this has allowed Playground to do is add a handful of additional curated drives to Horizon 5, which it's dubbed Expeditions.
Hey Luke, that's it. It's time for an adventure.
These expeditions inject a little bit of the flavour of the Horizon series' fabulous but fleeting opening drive montages back into the main career, where Playground stage manages vehicles, the time of day lighting, and the weather for memorable journeys that showcase Horizon 5 at its very best.
Okay, that one was very close.
There's been some significant multiplayer massaging too. This time, Playground has ditched ranked play for something less pressurized that won't penalize you for other people's bad racing etiquette. Horizon 5's PvP modes have been grouped under a single umbrella and are now designed to embrace new players as championships progress, meaning that unlike Horizon 4, it seems like we should no longer be locked in dwindling groups of sore losers that hemorrhage players as races don't go their way. The hourly Forzathon Live events from Horizon 4 have also been brushed aside in favour of the newly christened Horizon Arcade. It functions similarly to Forzathon Live. They're still co-op events where everyone contributes to a common goal, but there's a greater variety of activities. They can be fun spectacle, particularly when dozens of piñatas are raining from the sky, but I do find they can descend into a bit of a slog when they go the full 10 minutes. Then there's the tiny stuff, which still all adds up. A more intuitive car collection display which lets you quickly buy multiple new cars for your garage and skip the menu shuffling in the dealership screens. A cute activity where you hide cars from your own garage for other players to find inside barns you've discovered around the map.
Shall we send a thank you?
Hell, there's finally even the ability to toggle between opting for metric measurements but retaining horsepower for power measurements, because kilowatts are for vacuum cleaners. Forza Horizon 5 is a deep and nuanced car nirvana for rev heads and auto geeks to endlessly collect, tinker and experiment. It's also an extremely accessible buffet of racing spectacle open to everyone from day one. Deluxe edition diehards to Game Pass nomads, no matter their driving skill or mechanical knowledge. It's an occasionally goofy but always earnest Valentine to Mexico's world-famous culture, and a romantic ode to the magic of road tripping through postcard-perfect vacation vistas. It's a long-haul, MMO-inspired racer that's exploding with more races, activities, and event types that can comfortably fit on the map, and yet it still always feels relaxed rather than daunting. It never locks you into something you don't want to do and steadily rewards you for however you choose to play it. It looks beautiful, it sounds magnificent, and it is glorious to play. Yes, Forza Horizon 5 is a lot of things. Above all, however, it is the result of a racing studio at the peak of its craft, and the best open-world racing game I've ever played. For more on Forza Horizon 5, check out our technical analysis, and for more on the whole series, check out our look back at the history of the Forza games. For everything else, stick with IGN.
The legacy of From Software's Souls series is not defined just by the amazing games that it's made up of, but also the subgenre that has been given life thanks to its very existence, the Souls-like. To celebrate this subgenre and to whet our appetites for the upcoming Elden Ring, here are our picks for the top 10 Souls-likes. Now, defining what exactly constitutes a Souls-like is a bit tricky because there's a lot of core elements of the Souls games, but for the purpose of this video, here are the key things that a game must have to be a Souls-like. Punishing consequences for death, souls, or a currency gained by defeating enemies that is integral to character progression and can be lost upon death, methodical combat typically tied to a stamina meter, and bonfire-like checkpoints that reset the world. Also, we're gonna keep this list From Software free. This is a list of the best Souls-likes, not the best Souls games. And yeah, sorry, that also means no Sekiro and Bloodborne. Now that we've got all that out of the way, let's kick this off with arguably the first game to directly crib the mechanics and feel of Dark Souls, Lords of the Fallen applies the genre's hallmark stick-and-move combat to a more conventional, loot-driven action RPG. Though it doesn't test your mettle in quite the same way as its masochistic inspiration, its riff on the bonfire system, which gives you the opportunity to bank experience at checkpoints or keep it on you to earn more, tests and tempts players in its own way. Don't underestimate Code Vein for being anime Dark Souls. Bandai Namco's post-apocalyptic sci-fi fantasy vampire adventure brings deliciously brutal combat and some mechanically interesting twists. Switching classes and experimenting with lots of weapons and playstyles is strongly encouraged. You can, and are basically expected to, play the whole game as part of a duo with either a friend or AI companion who backs you up through hectic battles that are tough enough for two. Each Darksiders game has been a different flavor of hack and slash, with the first game being largely influenced by The Legend of Zelda, and the second being a mixture of a variety of character action games with Diablo-inspired loot. But Darksiders 3 was a Souls-like through and through, though its combat is not tied to a stamina meter, something generally intrinsic to the Souls-like genre. It still nonetheless employs the same style of methodical and deliberate combat that is exceptionally punishing for every mistake. Darksiders 3 also stands out from the rest of the Souls-like genre thanks to its lingering influence of The Legend of Zelda that carries over from prior games. There's a larger emphasis on puzzles and environmental problem solving than is typical within this genre, making it an interesting departure despite its firmly established Souls-like roots.
Come on then. Take a sit and have a drink. We can watch life pass on by.
Mortal Shell is shorter and less complex than many of the best Souls-likes, but it has two unique mechanics that make it stand out. You control a ghost who possesses the corpses of different warriors with different weapons and abilities, and you can charge up a block by hardening your corpse shell so you can take a hit while attacking and not get hurt. Its spooky vibe and stress-inducing combat channels the Souls games that inspired it. It just doesn't get much more Souls-like than this. One of the more defining and weirdly endearing characteristics of a great Souls-like is how obtuse it is in how it reveals its enemies, items, and story as it slowly unfolds. 2018's Ashen from Studio A44 and Annapurna Interactive is just the right amount of obtuse to inspire players to inch forth through its treacherous, minimalist world. Ashen is tough, unforgiving, and brilliantly stripped down to the core DNA of what makes a Souls-like tick. Sure, most of its characters barely have feet or even faces, and the art direction feels deliberately stripped down and cel-shaded compared to its grizzled and lavish Soulsborne bigger brothers, but all of that just makes it feel much more haunting, austere, and isolating. Not too isolating though, because Ashen really clicks in passive co-op multiplayer, where friends can team up to explore and subsequently die in its sprawling, eerie world together. Mixing bleak, dystopian sci-fi horror with hard-hitting melee combat, labyrinthine environments, and tough-as-nail boss fights may seem like your standard issue Souls-like formula, but Remnant from the Ashes adds emphasis on a very iconic video game weapon class: guns. Heavy-duty ground combat, complete with procedurally generated stages, makes Remnant feel different enough from its counterparts while still paying homage to the games that inspired it. Most importantly though, it's a ton of fun, and occasionally tough as nails, and has some really unique lore to boot. And if the main game sinks its hooks into you, there's also 2 DLC packs and an entire prequel spin-off game to keep you going. Both the Surge and the Surge 2 take the multiplayer/countdown mechanics introduced in Lords of the Fallen and add a Monster Hunter-esque crafting system to put a unique sci-fi stamp on the Soulsborne genre. Dismembering zombified cyborgs to craft new weapons and armor offers a grisly injection of strategic fun, and some really excellent environmental design and storytelling in the first game provides a great setup to the series' dystopian future. While the story might get a little bit unwieldy as it progresses, the 2019 sequel improves the gameplay mechanics and progression loop that made the original such a satisfying action RPG. One of the first truly notable Souls-likes, Salt and Sanctuary is perhaps the one that most unabashedly embraces that identity. This is a game that wears its Souls inspirations proudly on its sleeves. But what makes it so special is that for as much as it sticks to the core fundamentals of a Souls-like, it also introduces completely new elements. There are platforming sections that play with the rules of gravity, there's couch co-op play, making it one of the best Souls-likes to play through with a buddy, there's a super in-depth skill tree that allows for a ton of customizations in terms of your playstyle, and all of this on top of super satisfying combat, a great variety of weapons that behave very differently from each other, deep progression mechanics, and much, much more. At first glance, you might not think Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order much of a Souls-like. Lightsaber battles, force-assisted parkour, and an actual story not hidden in item descriptions. But the blood of Souls games can still be found running through its veins. Many of its challenging battles against the Empire or deadly alien fauna come down to a strategic understanding of an enemy's moves and style, when to dodge unblockable attacks or parry at the right time, even interrupting with a well-placed force push. While no stamina meter is present, Fallen Order relies on wearing down an opponent's stun meter with perfect strikes and blocks, similar to Sekiro. Checkpoints to rest are sparse, and enemy ambushes are plentiful, rewarding careful progression and an eye for secrets. And let's not forget the most lovable robot Estus Flask ever to grace the screen, BD1. Okay, now before we go into our number 1, we have to call out an honorable mention that didn't make this list, not because we missed it or because we didn't like it, but because calling it a Souls-like just didn't really sit well with us. While undeniably inspired by Dark Souls in many ways, Hollow Knight doesn't really play like the other games on this list in practice. Yes, it shares a similar storytelling style of letting you piece together the history of its world and your role within it through more subtle dialogue and rich lore, as well as that familiar death mechanic of having to reach the place you died to retrieve your money, but its combat, progression, and movement systems are extremely different from the Souls setup. Most notably the lack of a stamina meter, and while there are other games on this list that also lack a stamina meter, there's also a significantly more forgiving healing system that doesn't rely on reaching enemy resetting checkpoints to refill. Fights themselves are also far more reminiscent of platformers like Castlevania or even Mega Man than the patient, timing-focused encounters of a Souls game. So, while Hollow Knight is an incredible platformer that certainly owes its Dark Souls inspiration a lot, its gameplay doesn't actually use FromSoft's signature style to the same extent as others on this list. But hey, if you disagree, feel free to pretend Hollow Knight's right here on this list and bump everything else down. We won't judge. Moving on. The best Souls-likes find a way to use what the Souls series did as a starting point, and then find a way to leap off from there and do their own thing. None do this better than the Nioh series. It still has all the essential qualities of a Souls-like, but Team Ninja manages to tweak each of those qualities in ways that make the Nioh games feel familiar, but also completely distinct. Take combat for example. It's still got that careful and deliberate pace thanks to a stamina bar that governs your every action, but on top of that is also a key pulse mechanic that allows you to regain that stamina with well-timed button presses after each attack, which facilitates a much faster pace to the action. Add on top of that the unbelievably deep gear system, the huge skill trees for each weapon and type of magic, along with a lengthy campaign and tons of post-game content, and it's easy to see why the Nioh series is placed on such a high pedestal among Souls-likes. And that's our list. What do you think? Agree? Disagree? Still think Hollow Knight should have made it? Let us know in the comments, and for everything else, keep it here on IGN.
My name is Isabelle Valois. I'm an aspirant in the Sapphire Tourney, a proving ground for squires looking to join the knightly orders.
She is honest, and she is kind, and she is deeply devoted to the values of knighthood.
The people of the Sisters take pride in our knights, the same as anywhere in High Rock.
I think one of the favorite ways she was described to me when I first started recording her was, she's like that girl on your dorm floor who finds out that you have alcohol in your room. And she would never turn you in for it ever, but she will definitely give you the side eye and maybe a little lecture about why that's not the smartest idea.
Eight above help me. They're artists and sailors, singers, bards, and pirates all. Brave, swashbuckling warriors that make you recite poetry. Ghastly stuff.
She is a follower of the god Stendar, who is both the god of righteous might and mercy. So I think that says a lot about her. She believes the world is what you make of it. So it's shaped by her choices. And because of that, I think she can leave the world better than she found it.
Of course. Drake, I'm sorry. I bet I came on a little strong. I've spent months preparing for the tourney.
These companion characters are so well-rounded. It feels like they're alive, you know? As you spend time with them in the game, you really get to see their personalities fully. I think it just creates this bond with your companion that is so important when you're playing this game.
Sorry. It's a curse I picked up from my dad. A word from the old druid tongue that's been co-opted for common folk. I sort of grew up here at the castle, and it's a little more acceptable than the curses the dockhands use. So I use it.
And I really love that both the companion characters available are so very different. You know, they couldn't be more opposite. So with Isabelle, you get this beautiful, wholesome, knightly experience.
I would never. Stealing is, well, unknightly.
If you decide to have Ember as your companion, you can just lean into the trash fire because she's so much fun.
Now, let's get things started.
Word of advice. Never take a Black Marsh Argonian for granted when it comes to cards. I can't tell you how many people fall for that whole I'm a simple lizard lost in the big city routine.
So in the new High Isle chapter, we have the Tales of Tribute game, new card game. Bragus introduces the player to that new game.
Ha! If Frey's bones, an introduction would be nice, wouldn't it? Call me Bragas. Professional gambler and semi-professional everything else. Apart from sailor, that is. I hate the water. And this character, he's a gambler, he's a talker, he likes people. How he attacks this game, this new card game, is how he attacks life. All in. He is just all in on everything. And it's a game within a game that you can go into a tavern, meet someone you don't know, sit down and you play this new card game together. It's brilliant. Do yourself a favour. Never bet on horse races, or guar, or mixhounds, or giant spiders. Really, any sport where the participants can run faster than you. Torch bugs are alright though. I see life as a team game. I think Bragas does as well. I think he likes to see other people succeed. He likes to see other people being happy. People need a place to relax, chum. The ancient anchor's fine for sailors on shore leave, but people looking for a really good time always come here. So I think a night in the pub with Bragas, a couple of beers, a little Tales of Tribute would be fantastic. I think we'd have a great time together. Go out and win some games, my friend. It really is true that experience is the greatest teacher, especially when it comes to Tales of Tribute. I'll be rooting for you the entire way.
From Software have had a design brief, and they're sticking to it. From demons to the dark, from blood to Sekiro, the masochistic punishment remains in Elden Ring. But is this new entry a mere Tolkien gesture to change that brief, or the ring to rule them all? Now, dad joke intro aside, Elden Ring launches this week across last generation PC and now gen consoles, and today we get to suffer for the plight of all you tarnished souls to bring vital details on the Series X, the PlayStation 5 and the Series S. Now, if you need to know how this game plays out, where have you been for the past 15 or so years? Suffice to say, the game remains true to the core aspects of From Software, with bonfires now being sites of grace and everything that moves able to kill you within an instant. The big change comes from structure and additions to that tried and true formula. The map is now vast and largely open from the start. You can also fast travel very quickly between these sites after you have visited them, at least on foot, and you also get brand new steeds to speed up your travel across the map, and this is quite a significant change to the sometimes very tedious retreading back to the last boss battle that slapped you from pillar to post. These are both a gameplay and technical update that means loading, travel and streaming are now much heavier on the engine and hardware, giving us more to discuss later in the review. Another big update, again technical and visual this time, is a dynamic weather system and time of day has now been added into the game. This does remove the feeling you are just stuck in a Groundhog Day battle in limbo within each of these battles. Sunrise adds a lovely red tint, broad daylight helps see much further, and darkness emphasises the burning torches and the sheer horror you face. Sun, rain and strong winds with fog also really enhance the visual quality and variety you will face. This adds more load on the engine as now textures and lighting cannot be baked, with shadow maps shifting, stretching and changing the dynamic of the scene. I appreciated the effort here, and although not a revolution by any means in gaming, this is a vast step forward for From, and means that Elden Ring is the most technically forward-looking title that they have made, really building on all those previous elements with clear Bloodborne and Sekiro influences creeping in, not least of which include stealth options, your very own horse, and a jump button. The sky really is the limit with this one. Resolution wise and performance, we have two modes available for our delights across all three platforms. As is the common standard, we have a priority choice to make, either frame rate or quality. This predominantly boils down to resolution sacrifices on each console. LOD, foliage, ambient occlusion, etc. all remain pretty much identical on all three platforms between each mode. The only exception is shadow resolution, and possibly filtering is higher on the Series X and PS5 over Series S, and it's higher in the quality mode than it is in the frame rate mode. Now, prior to the day one patch being released, version 1.02, only the PlayStation 5 had per object motion blur and camera radial blur, but it's now been restored in the Series X and the Series S in frame rate mode. It was already there in quality mode, and likely a quick win for performance reasons, but they've obviously optimized the Xbox versions now and put that back in, and obviously improved performance ever so slightly, which I'll get to at the end of the video. So you'll see some shots here that were captured before that was applied, but the later performance capture is showing that with it applied in both the performance mode and obviously the quality mode. The resolution differences between the two do stand out though. Now let's go from the top down. In quality mode, both the PS5 and the Series X target a fixed resolution from all my counts of 3840 by 2160, and this is much cleaner and sharper on all the thin subpixel and thus high frequency elements of the screen, from foliage, specular highlights, particles and texture details, ultimately presenting the game in the very best light possible, and without any overtly intrusive TAA solution. It can be pin sharp at certain times of day to enable those texture details to stand out. It's still a very noisy image though. They use chromatic aberration at the edge of the screen, lots of motion blur when you're moving around, and generally the subpixel element does dither and shimmer quite a lot, which causes some movement in subpixel elements and foliage. There are other elements in terms of shadow maps shimmering around and lots of foliage popping in as you walk through the world. At some points it can be quite drastic as things can move in and out. Now the quality mode is much better and cleaner, although it still has some shimmering, but it's very, very minor. And the frame rate mode in certainly the PS5 and the Series X case does have a reduction to image quality that is very apparent, and it can emphasize that shimmering movement and reduce the texture details. But once you're in action, and again because of that motion blur, it doesn't really make a huge amount of difference to a title like this, where the art and assets aren't designed around pin sharp accuracy. Now the Series S runs the quality mode at 55% reduced resolution than the other two consoles, at a fixed 2560 by 1440 from all my counts. It may be dynamic, I didn't catch any points where it was. Now the frame rate mode changes this to a definite dynamic solution, and now with the Series S topping out at 2560 by 1440 so long as you're looking at the sky, but in action it's often 2080 by 1170 or even 1080p, and at points quite often in heavy battles just under a low point of 1792 by 1008, giving us a 51% scaling factor from that 1440p target. The impact to image quality is pretty large on a 4K screen. It can come at the cost of clarity and motion that for me is not worth that balance from a personal perspective, but more on that shortly. The PlayStation 5 and Series X both appear to have an identical resolution target. Skywards we see 3840 by 2160, and then in action a low of 2688 by 1512 on both. However, the PlayStation 5 is often higher than the Series X, with this shot being at that lower 1512p on Series X here, and it's 1620p on the PlayStation 5. This is potentially a reason why the performance is much closer post-patch, meaning we see a circa 12 to 15% gain to the PS5 in some sections where heavy foliage, overdraw and shadow maps are in play. But in reality though, this delta is academic, as those resolutions, even when zoomed in, barely make it perceptible, and certainly not in action. The lack of per object motion blur would have stood out even more, but it's now been restored in this patched version, although it can sometimes be disabled even on the Series X when you're moving around. It definitely has some kind of issue in there, or maybe it's dynamic, I don't know, but sometimes you can see it and sometimes you can't. The results are a game that can look softer and more noisy in this mode, as it rarely hits 4K on both machines unless the on-screen action is very light. We had to wait until the launch patch was released, and we tested all these versions on version 1.01 and then again on 1.02 to ensure we got an accurate state of how the game will launch when you play it. As such, we can see that both modes run with a 60 FPS cap on the frame rate, it's just that one hits that target much better than the other. Taking quality first, we can see the Series X and the PlayStation 5 never hit 60 during the tested sections, with highs of 45 and 47 respectively here, and both dipping into the 30s. Normally, unlocking your frame rates when they're this low is usually a no-no, but From Software's engine is notorious for bad frame pacing. Fundamentally, the delivery of frames over an even cadence. Think of it like a drum. See the frame time graph on the left. So long as that drum beat, the frame time is smooth and even, everything feels correct. But when it's variable, then it all goes out of sync, and you can really get affected by that in terms of the on-screen actions, the controller input times, and all of that negatively affects your experience. As such, leaving this unlocked is the better option, as a cap to 30 FPS would still cause judder, but would likely feel no better and possibly worse at points. As such, this mode is really a 30 FPS mode, but left to run at 16 millisecond frame times to ease memory budget and frame buffer flips, which could be anywhere between 16 and 66 milliseconds. Series S is identical, but of course worse. The quality mode only hits low 40s now, when screen view is at a bare minimum. Most of the time it is 32 or lower, and can drop sub 30 FPS even with the latest patch applied in the frame rate mode. Again, the impact here is a 30 FPS game most of the time, but due to the freedom of frame rates, we actually get a better presentation in this mode than if it was capped to 30, I would suspect. As such, it makes sense why they have done such a thing. The frame rate mode does improve here by 45% give or take, enabling 60 FPS to be hit. Sadly though, it's rarely here and can still drop sub 30 FPS even at sub 1080p. The like-for-like examples here show what this means for image quality and frame times. The main choice here comes down to your screen. If you've got a 1080p one, then the resolution cost is lower, and thus the increase to game fluidity is welcome and might be worthwhile. But on a 4K screen, this is not the case, and as such, the choice here is to leave it at quality mode, in my opinion, as the increased performance, although welcome, is insufficient to balance the IQ cost for such a display. But the choice is best, and I'm happy to report From Software have given you that choice to make, which is another improvement over previous releases, besides Sekiro. The PS5 and Series X have almost the same challenges, but the IQ cost is much smaller, and as such, I think even on a 4K screen, the increase to fluidity is the best compromise, as you're always north of 1440p, which is where the Series S tops out. What we do see though is performance gains to the PS5. Again, not 100% like for like, but we can see 4 to 7 FPS at best, some 13 to 20% in quality mode over the Series X, even with the latest patches applied. Again, this is academic, as outside of this analysis you would never really notice it, as the action and variation makes them both feel more 30 than 60, with the same reasons I've just explained. But it does stand as a good benchmark here for the actual From Software engine, certainly favouring the PS5's configuration and API, but with the patches applied it is much better, but it doesn't really achieve a consistent and stable 30 FPS frame rate, but it is better than previous releases, albeit not including Sekiro, which also had that option. The frame rate mode does do a better job though, with the sacrifices just explained to hit that higher ceiling. However, neither are close to being locked, and again can dip back into the high or even low 30s from my tests. Due to the resolution scaling here being an additional factor, we also see some higher deltas in those frame rates, sometimes 10 to 15 FPS at the very heaviest fill rate bound sections, but at others it can be literally 1 to 2 FPS, leaving us with a small but clear gain for the PS5 over the Series X, which again aligns with the results we saw in quality mode even post that day one patch. This does leave the PS5 performing better than the other consoles, but not by a huge level, and I doubt anyone would really spot the difference aside this kind of deep analysis, but it's still something to note if you have both consoles to play it on. Cutscenes can again be some of the most impactful in terms of performance, but as a passive experience, that's not really an issue. Just before we wrap up the performance review here, there is one thing to note, and that is PlayStation players get that unique opportunity to simply play backwards compatibility titles, including new ones from the PS4, or in this case the PS4 Pro. That means if these frame dips, and they are pretty persistent, you will feel them throughout the title no matter which version you play. There is one unique option that's simple for PlayStation 5 players, and that is simply download the PS4 version that gives you access to the PlayStation 4 Pro version, which runs at a 3200 by 1800 resolution, but it means you get absolutely no dips in my tested sections here. Fully locked 60 FPS with no issues. There are other caveats with that version which I'll cover in the next video, but overall, if you do want to have the most solid performing version, and that includes the PC, and I'll cover that in the next video as well, then certainly try this, as I think you'll find it a benefit if you are susceptible to frame dips. And let's be honest, From Software are well known for it throughout their history. Lastly, we have loading, which is another area that PS5 wins, but this time by the largest amount. Almost 3 times faster from a load to the save point on the same game, 6.3 seconds versus 17.8 on the Series X, and around 1% slower, half a second on the Series S. For a game like this, that is very welcome, as you will be able to die even more in the same time on the PlayStation 5, and how is that not a win? Fast travel and respawn show a similar delta, anywhere between 1.8 to 3 times the speed of the Series X to the PS5, and the same for the Series S, a little slower. And that's a big part of this game because you spend a lot of time travelling, loading, and certainly dying. This is another classic entry in that Souls Death Punishment series that From Software are synonymous with. It does push improvements in model quality, scene density, lighting effects and more, but largely these may seem cosmetic, but they do add to the enjoyment and improve the variety the game offers. It's certainly not a groundbreaking revolution in terms of technical development and asset quality. Even PBR materials are of a similar level that we saw in Sekiro. It is definitely, from a technical perspective, up with the best the team have made. There are some bugs, shadow map flickering, pop-in and other issues. It's still an atmospheric and well-designed, art-driven title. The Series S does lose out on such heavy GPU title as this, and basic LOD culling is a key area the engine could definitely improve on, with buildings staying visible from miles out. There are half-rate animations that still crop up, and overall the performance, even with 2 modes, never hits a stable level both at 30 and 60 that should be expected even from Software. If you have the choice, the PS5 is the better one all round in all modes and all areas, but Series X still offers a welcome boost over the previous generation and is never that far away from the PS5 to cause great concern. Fundamentally, if you played Dark Souls and such back in the PS360 days, then this is a silky smooth affair. You could say it's one to die for. Anyway, that's the end of another technical deep dive into games, technology and all things game related, but remember, keep it IGN for much more, and I'll catch you on the next one.
The Reapers might think they've already won, but we'll show them that we don't stand for that sort of nonsense in the Sea of Thieves. We can fight back. We can rebuild Golden Sands.
Oh, yeah? And who's gonna rebuild it? You?
Well, obviously we can't do it alone. We're gonna need every brave and true pirate that calls these seas home. We need to gather as many supplies as we can and bring them here. We'll show the Reapers we don't give up so easily. So, they think they can just rebuild. We must act swiftly. They cannot be allowed to restore Golden Sands. We will call more pirates to our banners, and all will tremble before the might of the flame.
in case you missed it, Bethesda announced today that Starfield and Redfall have been delayed to the first half of 2023. Not great news. I'm Brian Altano. This is Ryan McCaffrey. Let's break down what this means for this year and for next year for Xbox. How you doing, McCaffrey?
I'm good, man. The Brian and Ryan show. It has been way too long since you and I sat down. Sadly, it's over bad news, but there is some good to be taken out of this, at least.
That's true. Now, obviously, they had originally committed to the 11/11/22 date. I love that. It was catchy. That's not happening. So that was part of the whole sort of big Bethesda buyout. We saw Starfield was probably one of the most anticipated games of the year, one of the biggest games of the year, definitely one of the most ambitious games of the year. Fallout in space, as the shorthand goes for it. But not surprising that it's getting moved like almost every giant game has during this pandemic era of gaming. So I'm sort of stumped as to what this means exactly right now for Xbox, because we know that big things are coming, and we'll get to that in a second. But I think right now in the short term for 2022, it does put them in a very unique spot in not having any sort of significant big first-party games to tout for, their both of their consoles, which are by all means very successful otherwise.
Yeah, highest revenue console platform of Q1 2021. They've got a lot of momentum on the hardware side. On the platform side, of course, Game Pass continues to get bigger and bigger. But you're right. Like, for all the momentum that they had from last year with Halo, with Forza Horizon, with Psychonauts 2, with a number of other third-party exclusives as well, things were really looking up. And unfortunately, just the way the development cookie crumbles, 2022 is suddenly looking pretty bleak as far as Xbox exclusives goes. So what we've had so far, because Sony's had a tremendous year already, and that's we don't even have God of War Ragnarok yet. So they got that to look forward to on the PlayStation side. But on Xbox, we had Crossfire X, which was a disappointment. We had the best game of the year so far for Xbox exclusive-wise, the game behind me, Tunic, which I reviewed, gave a 9. No regrets. The game's amazing. Brian Altano, it is definitely a Brian Altano kind of game. If you haven't played it yet, you've got to play it.
Playing it on Xbox and restarted it on Steam Deck too. Yeah, it's fun.
Nice. Oh yeah, good Steam Deck game too. Shredders, a snowboarding game. So that's an exclusive most people probably weren't even aware of. That was definitely a smaller time game. And then there is one we should be able to mark like in pen, not in pencil. And that's Deathloop, which we already know is a 10 out of 10 video game. The 1-year exclusivity on PlayStation will expire in September of this year. So presumably we will get that. I don't know if they'll be able to talk about it at the showcase next month, the Xbox showcase, because who knows what the terms of that deal are with Sony. But we should be seeing that this fall, I think, on Xbox.
Which puts that one next to the sort of like interesting category with, Ghostwire being on PS5 and Xbox having a part of that too. Part of that, those 1-year exclusivity deals as well. So yeah, that's that is part of the conversation. It is a small part, but it is in there.
And then the rest of 2022 for now. Now, Altano, recognize that the showcase in 1 month from today, June 12th. It's May 12th as we shoot this. I'm sure we'll get some 2022 release dates, and I'm going to talk about a couple that I think are somewhat likely. But here's what's currently on the schedule. Only one of the games I'm about to list for you has an actual specific day that's on the calendar, and that is Warhammer 40,000 Darktide. That is a third-party Xbox exclusive scheduled for September 13th of this year. Also on the calendar, again, all third-party stuff at the moment, Scorn, which is the long-delayed, just first-person, disgusting horror game, very H.R. Geiger-esque, that looks like it'll be pretty good. That's scheduled for October, but no date yet. And then games without even any months, but they're just still for now, 2022. Some really cool stuff here. Somerville, which is from the Limbo and Inside developers. That game looks phenomenal. And then you've got Replaced, another, indie exclusive, but that was a big standout from the showcase last year at E3 2021. That's that side-scrolling pixel art steampunk game that looked fantastic. That grabbed a lot of attention last year. That is as far as we know, penciled in for 2022 on Xbox. And then another one, which I have major doubts about because we've heard literally zero about it since its announcement. The announcement did millions of views on IGN. That was Ark 2. You remember that was the trailer. That's the Ark sequel that had Vin Diesel in the trailer. So
my brain had completely forgotten about that until you reminded me of it this morning, by the way.
Well, me too. I had to do my research and I was like, yeah, that was okay. That's still 2022. Yeah, probably not. But unless, who knows? Maybe we'll get a pleasant surprise at the Xbox showcase for that one. And then Halo Infinite's already out, but we'll have season 3 of that game for the multiplayer, free-to-play multiplayer, starting in November. So that's, that'll be new maps, new modes, some stuff to look forward to there. So that's it, Brian. We can talk about some maybes on the first-party side for 2022.
Well, that's the thing. What's interesting about Xbox right now is that they do own a ton of studios. They do have a bunch of irons in the fire, as they say. But it does feel like a bunch of them got moved for this year, and that's just sort of bad coincidence. It could be just an overall perfect storm happening here. But yeah, there are some question marks of stuff that we know is in the works. But I would be surprised if some of these games came out this year. But who knows? They're worth mentioning, right? So there's Hellblade 2.
Yeah, that, because we've seen that a couple times. We got a 6-minute gameplay trailer for that at the Game Awards back in December, so 6 months ago now. And that one we know is Unreal Engine 5, and Unreal Engine 5 is finished and shipped to developers. So I feel like of the first-party titles that are in the hopper for Microsoft, Hellblade 2 has at least maybe a 50-50, a coin flips chance of coming out this year. And maybe that's the plan, right? Maybe, because of course Microsoft knows these games could all delay, including Starfield. Todd Howard, sadly, unsuccessful in calling his shot, Babe Ruth style, last year, saying 11/11/22. But that's all right. I mean, we want Starfield to be the best game it can be. I'll wait as long as it takes.
Agreed.
So, maybe Hellblade 2.
What was it? Two or 3 weeks ago, actually, the Xbox UK account tweeted out, 200 days until Starfield. Can you believe it?
Yeah, whoops.
And, and it is worth mentioning that, days do take longer on other planets. So maybe that's part of it.
It's November 11th in the Starfield universe, just not on Earth.
It's like 2,000 something hours for a full day on Venus. So maybe that's where it's taking place. We've got Forza Motorsport. That's a potential. I mean, what do you think the likelihood of that launching this year is?
Again, probably a 50-50 coin flip, because that's same thing. We haven't heard about this since it was announced at the 2020 showcase. So it's 2 years since I'm sure, I would bet lunch that I would bet you a Taylor ham sandwich that we will see that at the Xbox showcase next month. Whether it A, gets a release date, and B, if it does, if that release date is this year, remains to be seen. We had Forza Horizon 5, IGN's Game of the Year for 2021. Last fall, we know that this Forza Motorsport is a reboot of the Sim side of the franchise. It's going to be next-gen only, no more Xbox One. So I think that's, it's a maybe for this year. My gut is leaning towards no, but I think there's an outside chance that could land this fall.
We've also got the Indiana Jones game from Machine Games, which we got a brief glimpse of. It was kind of that overhead death shot of the map and stuff like that. My gut on this one is that this will get timed closer to the movie release, whenever that is happening. That new Indiana Jones 5 or whatever feels like that's been being worked on for ages now. But never say never. I do hope we see something about that in the showcase, because I don't know, it just sounds awesome. I love Indiana Jones. And then there's that kind of rumored GoldenEye remaster that, who knows, that one, that's the game that at least 14 different intellectual property holders were involved with at some point. That's a whole rat's nest. Now, one thing that I have been thinking about a little bit today is that Xbox does have a ton of money, and they theoretically freed up a bunch of marketing dollars this fall. So could they potentially throw some money at a third-party game to do a Outrider-style day-and-date launch on Game Pass this fall? But digging around, this fall isn't that crazy for anyone, really. Like we mentioned God of War before, which I cannot wait for. Game still does not have a release date. Breath of the Wild 2 got moved to next year. There is a Call of Duty this year, although that is theoretically taking a year off at some point next year, I believe.
Yeah, the Treyarch game next time, yeah.
Yep. So in terms of big games this fall, we've got Gotham Knights, which we got a sort of 13-minute extended demo of this week.
October 25th for that one, I believe.
We've got Saints Row in, I believe, late August. So not exactly a fall game, but not really like a ton of really big things that they could be like, here's some money, launch it on Game Pass along with everything else, right? So I don't have the numbers off the top of my head on how well that sort of deal works historically for third-party publishers going on to Game Pass day and date as the other platforms. But it seems like people, studios aren't necessarily against it or apprehensive to it, and some are even embracing it. So that's a chance. I mean, what do you see happening there?
I think you nailed the major candidates, what few there are so far.
Yeah.
Saints Row, I don't think that moves the needle, with all due respect to Saints Row, which is a series that I've enjoyed for many years. I think Saints Row, I'm in the Saints Row 3 is the best Saints Row camp. I know I'm going to get some commenters that are going to say Saints Row 2. Much love to you guys. They're both excellent choices, but
3's my favorite too.
This new Saints Row reboot's not doing anything for me so far. We'll see how that goes, but I do think Gotham Knights would move the needle. That's a significant game. That's a game, we were talking about it on Next Gen Console Watch this week, the one that hasn't aired yet. It will air after this records, but oh well. That one, they had their old gen versions canceled. PS4 and Xbox One canceled.
Right.
That could be something where Microsoft might want to throw a few bags of cash at WB and say, hey, let's get this on Game Pass, and then let's use the cloud technology that we've been building to stream it to Xbox One users so they can play the game, which is something that we saw Microsoft do with Microsoft Flight Simulator last year.
Right.
A next-gen only game that you can play on your Xbox One with your Game Pass Ultimate subscription through the cloud streaming there. So, that's a possibility. But yeah, 2022, the showcase is going to have to bring something, and I think it will. That's the bad news. But the good news, Brian, is that 2023 is going to be insane. Like as bleak as 2022 is looking at the moment for Xbox, 2023 could, I know we throw around best year ever a lot, which is good. Like that means because we're excited, but seriously, 2023, Brian.
I agree. And I will point out that, there have been a lot of years over the last decade where it feels like Xbox is like, okay, so not this year, but next year is going to be the big one. And
the Chicago Cubs of the video game industry.
Yeah.
The Chicago Cubs did eventually win the World Series.
They did. It took a long time, but they did. They lifted the curse. I went to art school with a lot of people that would they wouldn't put a lot of art up on the wall for critique, but they'd be like, I got this painting at home I'm working on. I swear to God, it's amazing. Just believe me. And eventually, they'd have to show and prove, or they wouldn't pass the class. So that's just the reality of things, but it is worth mentioning. I do feel that next year, and I agree with you, I do feel that next year is going to be big, not just for Xbox, I think for a lot of companies, but I think Xbox specifically has a lot of really cool stuff that they're working on that didn't make it this year, didn't make it last year. And so let's speed run through why 2023 is something to look forward to after this year has definitely not been great for them.
Yeah, the rapid fire version of this, but just let this sink in. You're going to hear these really fast, but think about if all, or even realistically, 2/3 of these come out, next year is going to be bonkers. And everything you're about to hear will come to Game Pass on day one. Let that sink in as well. Starfield, Redfall, Ghostwire Tokyo coming off of its 1-year PlayStation exclusivity. That deal should expire in March of 2023. Avowed, huge first-person RPG, very exciting from Obsidian. The Fable reboot from Playground, Gears of War 6, State of Decay 3, Everwild from Rare. You look at the calendar, id Software's next game, whatever it is.
Right.
There's some maybe speculation that it could be a Quake reboot. You look at the calendar, they shipped Doom Eternal in March of 2020. So, maybe fall 2023 would be 3.5 years. There's a distinct possibility there. And then one other one that leaked late last year is a game called Pentiment, which is another Obsidian game from renowned director Josh Sawyer. It's a murder mystery game by the leaked description. That could very well be next year. So, that's a lot of bangers for 2023. Right. And then just to finish looking out on the horizon, I know, this is going to feel far away, and I guess 2 years away is still pretty far away. But 2024 onwards, Perfect Dark, and the reason I say that is because we've had reports that Perfect Dark's in a little bit of a rough place right now, so I can't imagine that game's a year, even 18 months away. So probably 2024. So Perfect Dark, The Outer Worlds 2, The Last Night. Remember that one, Brian? That's another pixel art cyberpunk game that looked incredible at E3 a few years ago. Cool. I've been keeping in touch with the developer there. They are working hard, and that game is going to be something else. You've got not one, but 2 Unreal Engine 5 In Exile RPGs. So again, those are out on the horizon. Double Fine's next game, that's out on the horizon after Psychonauts 2 shipped last year. We know that whatever Double Fine's doing, it's using Unreal Engine 5. Forza Horizon 6, inevitable. That's probably 2024 onwards. And of course, The Elder Scrolls 6 is somewhere out there. It's in pre-production right now. Yeah. And it will go into full production once Starfield does ship in 2023. But yeah, I mean, that's off in the distance. But again, that 2023 that we just went through, that's going to be wild. And that's to say nothing of if some of the 2022 candidates we just talked about slip into 2023, it makes 2023 even better. So next year is going to be insane for Xbox.
I completely agree. You'll just have to hold out. This year is obviously, it's a little quiet, it's a little barren. We're just as bummed as everybody is. Like this, I wanted to play these games. Like this stinks. Just like I wanted to play Breath of the Wild and everything else that got moved. But it is what it is. It's the nature of the pandemic and a million other moving parts happening. Games are bigger than ever. But Ryan, thank you so much for helping me break this stuff down today. Folks, remember the Xbox Bethesda Showcase is on June 12th. So we will definitely see something there. They're doing a show, so they'll have something to show us. Whether or not it's stuff we'll be able to play this year, we don't know yet. But there will be games. And we will be covering every game this year, not only the ones that release, but the ones that don't release and get delayed forever. So remember, for all things video games, you're already in the right place, and that's IGN. And thank you so much for watching.
I like Fred and George, so the joke shop, I would probably have the best time because I love telling jokes and pull all the pranks.
You can choose from over 200 career paths that match your passion on GoArmy.com. What's your warrior? Hogwarts Legacy is coming to Nintendo Switch, Xbox One, Xbox Series X and S, PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, and PC. For more on everything Hogwarts Legacy, keep it here on IGN.
Now let's take a look at the new Saints Row Boss Factory demo, which is free to play now ahead of the full game release on August 23rd.
Guys?
You gotta do something to capture people's attention. So what do we build next?
Me. We are so good
at this.
Which fool wanna challenge me? Got a pack on your back with a strap, can't relax cause you know there's no guarantee. I ain't never guessed, that's a fact, don't react to the test of the mass and the cavalry. Stay correct, that's your majesty. Savage, never kneel, never have defeat.
Seriously, this is perfect. Dinner and a show, baby.
Fall drop from the roof, is it? Yeah, cut them loose if they ain't gon' get the proof with you. If you're looking for the truth, mister, cash ain't grind, cause I got one thing to prove quicker. To the dark side of the moon, high speed chase, make your heart stop from the zoom. Unsolved paper, bizarre vibes in the room, top floor brawl, that's a far drop from the room. I want all the power, the money and the dollars, the legends in the hours, the tunnels in my power, 100 miles an hour, cause I want all the power, I want all the power, I want all the power, I want all the power.
Hey everyone, Nars here, giving you a special look at Life Makeover, a social lifestyle simulation game that lets you take your style to the next level wherever you are by taking advantage of Unreal Engine graphics. In Life Makeover, you can create a character and customize their features, then try on thousands of ultra-realistic outfits that make you look and stay fabulous in your photoshoot sessions. From evening gowns, dreamy princess dresses, and tailored suits, Life Makeover gives you the freedom to match your style or try something new. Take care of your in-game character to change their mood, hang out with cute pets, and invite friends over for a party. Once you're ready for the spotlight, customize photoshoot locations like seaside villas, modern cities, rural farmhouses, and more to match your look. And your customization options don't end there. You can even create outfits from scratch in the DIY design suite. Here you can take advantage of preset patterns in the toolbox or add designs of your own to use in your very own creations. This suite simulates the real-world design process from selecting fabrics to pattern design and even cutting. Have a design you can't wait to share with friends? Make it a reality in Life Makeover, and then invite your friends to your in-game home to show off your creation or have a themed party. Life Makeover is brought to you by the award-winning Archosaur Games. You may have heard of their other titles like Dragon Raha, the most downloaded 3D next-gen mobile MMORPG in the American App Store, or their upcoming titles Noah's Heart and Avatar Reckoning. Archosaur Games is currently exploring new technologies like Unreal Engine 5 to use in their games they release in the future. The current APK game build is currently geared for Asian regions, however, the US and EU regions' features and localizations are being developed. Think you're ready to walk the runway? Then stay tuned because soon I'll be getting a hands-on look at Life Makeover and recreating my very own Summer of Gaming outfit in-game. But first, check out this trailer for Life Makeover and make sure to pre-register to start setting your own fashion trends.
5, 4, 3, 2.
We're out of space.
On it. We're going live.
Unleash the power of the Samsung 980 Pro PCIe 4.0 NVMe SSD for next level computing and double the data transfer rate of PCIe 3.0. It's 12 times faster than Samsung SATA SSDs, making for a whole new user experience. It's easy to install. Boost your PC performance, load games faster and more reliably, no matter how intensive the workload. The Samsung SSD 980 Pro and 980 Pro with heatsink are proud partners of IGN's Summer of Gaming.
We're good.
In 5, 4, 3, 2.
You are go for launch.
Xbox and Bethesda in 2022. With over 25 million Game Pass subscribers and the Series X and S selling faster than any Xbox console has before, Microsoft is riding high. Bethesda might have pushed Starfield and Redfall to next year, but there's plenty more from Xbox Game Studios on the way. Hotly anticipated sequels like Senua's Saga Hellblade 2, The Outer Worlds 2, State of Decay 3, and brand new takes on Perfect Dark and Fable. And there are brand new IPs we're dying to learn more about, like Avowed and Everwild. And hey, can we see some frickin' Elder Scrolls 6 already? Clearly, there's a lot in store from Xbox and Bethesda, and IGN has you covered.
Welcome to IGN's Summer of Gaming and a very special episode of Podcast Unlocked, IGN's weekly Xbox show. Today is Super Bowl Sunday for Xbox fans everywhere. That's because in just a few minutes we'll be getting a brand new presentation from Xbox and Bethesda showcasing all of the big games they've been working on, and it's sure to have some surprises and reveals. Here to help me speculate on just what might those things be are my co-hosts Miranda Sanchez, Stella Chung, and Destin Legary. I missed all of you a lot.
Yeah.
It is so good to be back.
It's so good to be here in person with everyone. We're all at the same table. It's so cool. Finally. Also in the same city since we're all spread out.
Physically, this is great. It's been a couple of years, but we're back. But before we get started, just a reminder that IGN's Summer of Gaming is going on throughout June. You can find live coverage of all things Summer of Gaming wherever you get your IGN, whether that's IGN.com, Twitch, YouTube, IGN 1 on your smart TV, and now you can even watch us on our Steam page, which I guess means you can watch us on a Steam Deck, probably, which would be awesome. Anyway, let's start by talking about Xbox's 2022 so far. It's been a bit of a rough go for Xbox thus far in 2022 after a great 2021 with Halo Infinite, IGN's 2021 Game of the Year, Forza Horizon 5. Psychonauts 2 was a huge hit, nominated for a ton of awards. You had even some exclusives like 12 Minutes and The Medium in there, The Ascent. A lot of great stuff last year, but this year, 4 big delays so far have really cost the Xbox a lot of momentum. We've had Stalker 2 get delayed, replaced, both of those for the absolute worst of reasons with the war in Ukraine. Those are Ukrainian developers. And then Starfield and Redfall also falling off. So 2022, a little rough so far, but Destin, on the hardware and services side, the news is much, much better.
Yeah, we actually got to try out the new Samsung television streaming service that Xbox is going to be offering with Xbox Game Pass. You can play games like Halo, Forza Gears, basically anything that's on Game Pass just on your Samsung television. The technology really, really impressed me. I got a bit of hands-on time. You can go check out that video right now on IGN.com. The latency is barely noticeable, if there at all. And it was just really impressive. I don't know what else to say about it. It felt like I was just playing off a Series X.
That's about the highest compliment you can possibly give that particular scenario. And then Miranda, we've got 25 million Game Pass subscribers. That seems pretty good.
Yeah, I think we talk about Game Pass a lot on the show, and for good reason. Like, there's just so many games, and I kind of think about it in a frame of, if I were a child and I had Game Pass,
Like,
it would be heaven.
Yeah, exactly.
We had that when we were kids.
Yes, I mean, I know we do talk about it a lot because it is such a good deal. It's like if you have an Xbox, you might as well have Game Pass, unless you don't want to have a bunch of games waiting for you to play constantly and discover, which is, it's really helpful because like there's so many times like, oh, that looks cool, and I'm like, is it on Game Pass? Yes, perfect. I'm just going to download it and try it. And I think that's just such a nice thing to have. And like having them expand it in different systems within like Samsung and just other apps and like with cloud gaming, and they're constantly adding more. It just continues to add value to it. And I think it's just a smart play for them to continue to grow it.
And then Stella, Xbox was #1 in revenue in all of Q1 for 2021. So that's the X and the S combined, plus game sales, plus just adding it all up. So things are good on the hardware side, including even now we're going to be getting some demos straight into Game Pass.
Which is awesome. Again, we keep talking about how great Game Pass is, but also I want to hit on the Series S and how good that is for people who are traveling, who do have to travel for work. It's just such a nice compact thing that people can just take with them and play anywhere, and it's almost the same exact quality as what you get on the Series X, which is great. So you don't lose much quality, you still get the same amount of playtime and FPS, which is great. So, and then now all these game demos coming out, like if I had a Series S in my hotel room, I could just go and play it.
Right. Well, you should.
I know.
Let's just do that after this.
Okay. All right.
We'll
cool.
Get some Xbox going. And Destin, Microsoft's incentivizing developers to make those demos for Game Pass.
Yeah. So basically, what's happening is they're offering an option to create demos for Xbox Game Pass for indie developers. They will be compensated for doing this, of course, and then that would go to the Xbox Game Pass service, meaning their games get a little bit more attention and promotion, and they get compensated for the work of creating that vertical slice.
So we'll talk predictions, core specific predictions here in a few minutes, but what I want to start with now is a more general overarching question. What does Xbox need to do today to have a good showcase? Stella, I'll start with you.
Oh, okay, cool. Definitely Starfield. I feel like that's the kind of game that, like screenshots, anything, maybe a different trailer. I would prefer gameplay, but I mean, listen, we'll take what we can get at this point because I need that sort of exploration game. I need that now. So I feel like anything Starfield, like any sort of maybe communication about, how development is going even.
Yeah.
That'd be fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, after the delay into just first half of 2023, any sort of big picture update on this game would be useful at this point. Miranda, what does Xbox need to do today to have a good show?
A common theme we're going to have here is updates. First-party updates, we just want to know where things are. It's understandable that there are a lot of delays, like in just how things are in the world right now with development and everything, and I think part of that could come with the conversations of crunch culture, right? Like that's been a huge thing in the industry. It's like, hey, don't do that. So if that means more game delays, I'd rather us have healthy developers who are making their best games because they're taken care of rather than having to crunch through it. So with that, with pandemic, everything else involved, I think it'd just be nice, of course, to have those updates. But aside from that, I think there are other things they can do to like wow us, right? Like it doesn't just have to be first party. That is what we're looking for, and we should expect to have those updates. And I think they have already said that, Starfield, Redfall, all those things, we'll get some updates on those. But I think there are, third-party things we can still look at too, and like game variety. So like they're really big on ID at Xbox, and there's some really fantastic games that have come out of that. And I think we shouldn't kind of doubt those, and we should give those a lot of respect and excitement too, because sometimes you can find the coolest, weirdest, most unique games in that bunch. So I think we should hopefully have a good, healthy space for that as well.
Absolutely. Destin, big picture, what does Microsoft need to do today?
They need to show gameplay, and thankfully, there's a live stream that was going on right before we went live here where Phil Spencer said, less CGI, more gameplay at this showcase. And also, if you're worried about spoilers, hide your phone, because there are some surprises in store, he says, that potentially have not leaked yet. So I'm really excited about that. But honestly, yeah, they need to show gameplay. They've shown CG of State of Decay 3. They've shown the CG for Perfect Dark. We've seen all that. We need to see what these games look like in action. What does Avowed actually look like when we play it? What is Starfield actually going to look like? Sure, we got an in-engine teaser, but I want to see gameplay.
Yeah, well said on everybody. For me, it comes down to one big picture thing for this showcase, because I wrote an editorial for IGN after last year's that said I thought that was their best showcase ever last year, but far too few of those games have actually come out. So I think that the thing Microsoft just has to do today to really have a great showcase is give release dates. We need concrete release dates for this stuff. I made a list of first-party games that have been announced they're great, exciting announcements. To your point, Destin, a lot of them were CG trailers, but they don't have release dates. And there are 10 of them. So you've got Starfield, which of course missed its release date, unfortunately. Redfall, Avowed, Fable, Forza Motorsport, Perfect Dark, The Outer Worlds 2, Hellblade 2, Everwild, and State of Decay 3 are all first-party exclusives that have been announced that we just don't have release dates for. So that, above all else, is what I just think we need to get today.
Yeah, and I'm totally fine waiting until a game's ready, but when you have 10 games without dates, it's sort of like, well, what are we supposed to be excited for in the interim, right? They did say that they're working on publishing 5 games during the next fiscal year, so from July to July, and we know a few of those, but we need dates.
Yeah.
Right, it's such a hard thing too, right? Because we want to know what teams are working on, and we want to know what's coming, but also we want the information, we want all the information, but also sometimes we don't want things to be revealed too early because then we have to wait forever and we get sick of hearing it a bit. Sometimes we're like, yeah, that game, we've seen it 5 times. Well, it's that hard juggle, right?
Yeah, I think Microsoft was in a tough position of their own making a couple years ago when I'm talking about all these games that have been announced. They kind of had to announce them because they'd gotten to this point where everybody was like, where are all of your first-party games? You've been buying these studios. So they had to get these CG trailers out there and say, look, no, we do have things. Yeah. And now it's catching up to them, which certainly the pandemic and the delays of work from home and all that haven't helped. So they're a little behind the 8 ball in the sense that there's these great games, but I empathize with the growing frustration of Xbox fans that say, well, wait a second, I've invested $500 in your next generation platform. Where are the exclusive games? So that's what I want today. Just please give us some release dates.
So just some communication, some form of communication on where things are, how things have been developing, how things feel with different studios. I mean, so I know that we're all frustrated that we haven't gotten more first-party games, but would you say that you still trust Xbox to release good games? Okay, good.
Yeah,
cool.
The water faucet's going to start just pouring pretty soon. We thought it last year. It had started to flow, and then it just dried up this year, but hopefully, I think when it finally does turn on again, which hopefully is going to start today, it's never stopping again. All right, we're going to take a very quick break, but when we come back, we've got more predictions and expert breakdowns of all the big games we expect and hope to see at the Xbox and Bethesda Showcase, which begins in just a few minutes. There's much more IGN Summer of Gaming right after this.
From video games to entertainment to tech, IGN is here to give you the biggest news and breakdowns that you're looking for.
Welcome to Next Gen Console Watch.
Welcome to Podcast Unlocked.
I'm Akeem Lawanson.
I'm Kim Horcher, and here at IGN, we give you a behind-the-scenes look at some of the biggest games coming out this. Híjole, what was that? Oh my gosh! Oh, Jamie, are you?
Did you know they call Callisto the dead moon? Gives me chills every time.
PlayStation. IGN Summer of Gaming 2022 is presented by the U.S. Army. You can choose from over 200 career paths that match your passion on GoArmy.com. What's your warrior? And sponsored by Metro by T-Mobile.
Welcome back to IGN's Summer of Gaming Expectation Jamboree for the Xbox and Bethesda Showcase. In just a few minutes, we will hopefully get an idea of what's in store for Xbox and PC gamers. But first, let's make some predictions. That's our favorite thing to do about exactly what might be coming up. Miranda, I want to start with you. We always have fun doing these. Sometimes we get crazy. Sometimes we try to keep it grounded and realistic. Which side of that meter are you going to go for here to start with?
I like to start grounded. I think that's a good place to go. I'd be remiss if I did not say a Gears game. Like, I have to talk about Gears, right? And I am happy to, because I want to know what's next for Kate and Marcus. Like, we got such a great ending with Gears 5, and so I'm just waiting with bated breath. So with Gears 4 and Gears 5, they did about a 3-year development cycle. So they released Gears 4 in 2016, and then in 2019 we got Gears 5. So if they were following that, which we know they're not, we would have gotten the next Gears this year. So I'm hoping this year instead, in lieu of giving us a whole game, that they will instead give us a really healthy tease for it. I don't think we're going to see gameplay yet, because I think they're very clear in saying, we need more time. And I'm like, a year? Is a year enough more time? Because I don't want to pressure you, but also I want to pressure you because I want this game.
Well, we have a big player choice, not to spoil it, but that has to resolve, right?
Yes.
In Gears 6. We knew we're getting Unreal Engine 5 for this. The Coalition Destin's been heavily involved with Unreal Engine 5 already.
Yeah, they actually worked on the Matrix demo recently. Colin Penty helped with that, and I'm sure other team members to make that come to life. So that demo is a really great example of what the Unreal Engine 5 is capable of.
And thus what Gears 6 is going to look like.
You guys.
It's going to be so good.
Gears 5 was gorgeous too.
Yeah,
just imagine Gears
and
6.
particularly with the Series X enhancements that they did. I mean, and we have to, Marcus has to get back to his tomatoes.
He does! He needs his peace. He needs his garden.
Stella, give me a prediction for
Okay.
what we're about to see.
So since we're starting out grounded, I think that definitely a roadmap for Halo Infinite. We kind of saw the latest update come out and then nothing really much after that. I know that there have been talks about co-op being tested on, right? The co-op campaign. But maybe we get that early. That'd be really great because I really want that to come out. I've been waiting for so long. But that's more of a grounded thing. Then definitely, I think we have to see something with Starfield. Like, there's no way they're going to leave that out.
Look at you skipping ahead to prediction number 2.
Sorry.
I can tell
I'm
you're.
so excited.
We're going to talk
I'm
about
sorry.
Starfield. But
Yes.
on the Halo note,
Yes.
Miranda, I know we were talking about this on regular Unlocked each and every week. Join us on Tuesdays. Campaign DLC. That's something you and I both want a lot.
Yes.
And the question is, what form would it take if and when we do get campaign DLC? Do you think we just stick with the Chief and sort of continue on with how Infinite ended, or do we dip into the audio logs and we know Blue Team's out there somewhere?
So my secret hope is that Blue Team's its entirely own game. It is separate, but it's like, because Halo Infinite is a platform,
Right.
It's within that, but it's kind of takes like an ODST format where it's like a little bit of a different gameplay and a different experience with different characters. Chief is like alluded to, mentioned, obviously very important, but not really involved. And I think that would be ideal. But for the Halo Infinite DLC, I'd really like to see that be an expansion of the map that we already have. We know there's other regions we haven't explored. Like, it's a huge ring, right? So hopefully we'll get to see a little bit of that too.
Destin, give me a prediction for the new showcase here coming up.
Okay, so I'm going to swing for the fences if it's my
Please
turn.
do.
NetherRealm hasn't done anything in a little bit, and I have some dates written down. So MK10 was supported for about 2 years. MK11 was supported for about 2 years, with their final thing coming out around July 2021, their final DLC pack.
Okay.
There's also the Injustice angle to consider. With Injustice 3, we know Warner Brothers is already working on 2 superhero games based in the DC universe. So I think that after Sony revealing Street Fighter 6, it would be awesome to see NetherRealm on the Xbox stage revealing either a new Mortal Kombat or a new Injustice. I know I would lose it.
Oh, I like that. Well, I guess I'll stay grounded with Miranda and Stella here for a second, and I want to come back with Stella too, because I also have a Starfield prediction. Obviously, we're seeing it. That's like the easiest layup of all time. But what I'll say is I think it's going to be a long demo. Remember at the old Bethesda showcases before Microsoft bought them? They would do like 15, 20 minutes on whatever, like with Fallout 4, the year that came out. Fallout 76 got the same treatment. So I think we're going to get like 10 or 15 minutes of Starfield gameplay. I think it's just going to be this full full gameplay reveal for Starfield. Although I will say I don't think we're going to get a release date yet. It just, since it was just delayed, it feels like it's probably too soon for them to nail down a new date that they'll be super confident in, but I would love to be wrong on that. All right, well, the Xbox and Bethesda showcase is minutes away, and we've got plenty more to discuss. But first, IGN Summer of Gaming is presented by The Terminal List. Watch the action-filled psychological thriller starring Chris Pratt only on Prime Video July 1st. Let's take a look at the trailer.
Investigations are still ongoing into the failures of Operation Odin Sword.
Failed mission resulted in the death of 12 Navy SEALs.
Lieutenant Commander James Reese, can you outline the details of your mission?
They knew we were coming.
According to audio logs, you went dark on comms roughly 4 mics in. Why?
That's not how it went down.
You okay?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Headaches, paranoia, memory confusion. We're gonna get through this, okay?
Wanna tell me what happened? Somebody fed us bad intel. It was a setup. If I'm right, we need to act on this. I need names.
If there's a connection to you and your men, I'll find it.
Answers or blood?
Blood.
Where's James Reese?
Is it true you're fugitive as a Navy SEAL?
There's a bunch of people tracking you right now, so just lay low.
I have 12 men flying on the caskets right now. This is personal. Oh, you wanted in on the fray. Now, you're in the battlefield. There's evil in this world, likes of which you can't possibly imagine.
James.
Take Lucy, get her out of the house now.
I'm not gonna tell you again. Stay off my list.
Welcome back. Now, Microsoft has a massive stable of studios at this point under their wing, with seemingly more being purchased every day. But what do we think about some third-party game developers showing up in the presentation today? Destin, I'll go your way first here.
Well, I already talked about NetherRealm, so let me throw another one your way. There's IO Interactive.
Yes.
Now, we know they're working on Project 007. We've
James
seen,
Bond game.
We've seen, yep, a James Bond game. We've seen the GoldenEye remake achievements pop up for like the last year, again resurfacing recently, so that would be awesome if they remade GoldenEye. But there's also Project Dragon. Project Dragon is a code name that was revealed, I believe, by Jez Corden and reiterated by GameIndustry.biz. It's supposed to be a fantasy RPG that's built around dragons. Now,
sounds a little like a certain canceled Xbox game that
Scalebound,
clamored
right?
to see. Yeah.
Right. So I'm curious what that's all about, and I would love to see more about that and see that finally revealed in some aspect. But also with all the GoldenEye stuff, I think we get a little bit of an IO block, because they have just so many good IPs at their disposal.
A Bond block leading into an IO block?
Yeah.
Just a nice smooth transition from GoldenEye remake into Project 007 and Project Dragon. Yeah. Sounds like a good chunk of show. Stella?
Well, I don't know if this counts, but Overwatch 2, I mean, I played the beta and alpha, and we kind of got a little bit of news, but then nothing else after that, so kind of excited to see what else is going to come from that. And I know Microsoft just acquired them not too long ago, so very excited.
Acquisition pending regulatory approval. If the government says okay, they'll do it.
Yeah, but like fans have been waiting for anything to happen for Overwatch for so long, and I'm like, this is definitely the time. Like, if you don't do it now, people are going to lose hope for this franchise, and you have to do something.
Well, you love Overwatch on the Blizzard side. I love Diablo, and closed beta signups are live now, and Mike Ibarra, the head of Blizzard's just like tweeting about it. It wasn't a mistake. They did it on purpose. So it seems like Diablo 4 is highly likely for today as well, which so buckle up for me to gush about Diablo post-show, because we will be live. Stick with us. Just watch the showcase, and then we're coming right back to the four of us to react to and analyze everything. So yeah, Diablo 4 will make me happy. Overwatch 2 will make you happy, and then we all win.
I like the little raccoon hands you just
Oh
have
yeah,
going on.
yeah, little Mr. Burns action. Miranda, give me another prediction.
We need something unexpected. Something that may have faded from your mind because it's been so long since they said anything. I think there's a lot of these smaller studios now that have like really awesome talent that's experienced and they're like, we're forming our own thing. This one's a little different. So let's talk about Ghost Story games. So
yes.
They were announced, they are technically Irrational Games that made BioShock and scaled down to be Ghost Story games. So it was kind of their next evolution as a smaller focused team under Ken Levine. We have not heard anything from them officially about what they're doing with their studio since it was announced in 2017. If you look at their website, all they have is like, hey, you want BioShock merch? I'm like, yeah, but also I want a video game. So I think that would be something that would just, one, blow me away, but also I'm like hoping for it now. So I'm like, can I visualize this? Can I will this into existence? So the reason I think it would be perfect for the Xbox stage is because, if you guys don't remember, BioShock was actually limited time exclusive on the original on Xbox and for PC. So they did have some sort of relationship there, and I think that's something we could see for Xbox again.
Boy, do I hope you're right. Yeah, I hadn't even thought about it. That's a good shout, because BioShock Infinite was 2013. I reviewed it for IGN.
Has it been that long?
It's almost a decade since we've actually had something new from Ken Levine. I know there was DLC for Infinite. So
Yeah,
I don't wanna
it's
discount
different
that,
though, yeah.
But boy, good call. I like that. Now, there's something I would like to will into existence, if I may. So I'm going to look straight into the camera, and I'm going to make this happen right now. Team Ninja, speaking of third-party developers that have excellent long-term relationships with Microsoft, Team Ninja, that relationship goes back to the original Xbox with Dead or Alive and the, at the time, remake of the old arcade NES game Ninja Gaiden, which only turned into one of the literal greatest action games of all time. We got Ninja Gaiden 2, also an Xbox exclusive on the 360, and then we got Ninja Gaiden 3, went multi-platform after Itagaki left. Well, they've been busy with Neo, which is an excellent, Soulsborne kind of game, but I think we haven't heard from Team Ninja in a while. Neo 2 was a while ago. I'm calling it now. I want to see a Ninja Gaiden reboot from Team Ninja, exclusive to Xbox, because why not? Why not have history repeat itself? It's one of the best. It's the Ninja Gaiden Master Collection is on Game Pass now, which that's another reason why I went with this, because it's like, is that a little breadcrumb? Is that a little clue that Ninja Gaiden's about to come back? So if you haven't played the old Ninja Gaiden games, it's on Game. All three of them are on Game Pass right now, and don't play now. Watch us now and watch the show later today.
Wow.
Get it downloaded. Have fun with it.
How about download it now?
Yeah.
You can let it download. It takes a little bit of time.
Yeah.
But watch us while you do it.
Yeah. Well, we've got a few more minutes, so.
Well, Ryan,
Stella,
I know.
Yeah, you've got more.
Well, yes, but also ever since I said that I would play Ninja Gaiden, I have gotten tweets and like people coming into my stream asking when I'm going to play, and I'm like, I just finished Dead Space, so maybe in a bit. But I mean, if they announce this, then would you suggest me play the original and then play the remake, or just play the?
Well, if there's a remake, it's probably not coming out for a while, right? It's probably only start with Ninja Gaiden 1. It's still the best of all of them. Great game. Destin, I know. Swinging it back to first party for a second. Yeah. It's not even fair to call it a prediction, because the creative director, Josh Sawyer, extremely accomplished developer at Obsidian, one of the rockstar new studios at Microsoft. We're probably getting a new game from him today, aren't we?
Yeah, he's been teasing that it seems like they're going to have something at the showcase today, and that could be Avowed gameplay, or it could be Pentiment, which is a rumored game that we don't really know too much about, but that would be great to see. And one of his colleagues also seemed to allude to the fact that they've been working on this for 2 years and that they're really excited for people to actually see their project. So I would almost say absolutely we're going to see one of those projects on the stage. And selfishly, if I had my choice about what that secret project would be, it would be a remake of the original Fallout 1 and 2.
Oh, I like that.
I would adore that, and just like the commentary on culture with those two original games, it's just really fitting for the world we live in right now. So I would love to see those.
So we're under 90 seconds, as you can see. We've got the countdown up here. Miranda, you wanna crowbar in one more quick prediction?
Yes. Shout out to Doja Cat for playing Fusion Frenzy. I would love to see the return of Fusion Frenzy. I ask for it every year. I will continue to ask for it. Party games. Why not? They're great. They're so easy to get anybody into. I cannot tell you how many times I like dragged other friends into playing video games because of Fusion Frenzy. So just be nice. Throw that out there.
And there's the 1 versus 100 rumor, Miranda.
Yeah.
That would be a great party game.
Yeah, give us, I think it's just like a different kind of experience. You know?
Absolutely.
And if we're willing things into existence, I need to see 3 green lights and the Splinter Cell remake. So please, let's let that happen. All right, the countdown is on here, just about 30 seconds to go. The Xbox and Bethesda showcase is just about to kick off. Be sure to watch the whole show right here. Don't go anywhere, followed by a very special live episode of Podcast Unlocked, where we will break down all of the biggest news and trailer surprises. And so with that, Miranda, Stella, Destin, it has been so great to be back with all 3 of you, all in the same room for the first time in far too long. Here we go, 10 seconds. Have a good show, Xbox.
Bam, let's do it.
Rumor has it something's off at the church. There's blood in the baptismal font, and pastor's gone missing. And my genius plan was to investigate it. Alone. Of course. Don't stress, Layla. Oh, shit. What was that?
He is the truth in the darkness. He is the word in the shadow. I've seen the movement in the dark. I've seen the shadow. I see you.
Oh, Lord!
I'll bite out your heart.
Oh, God, oh, God, oh, God, oh, God. Oh, shit, there's more! Gotcha!
Kiss her ass goodbye.
Jacob! Oh, thank God.
Come on, let's find the others and beat feet.
You know, Redfall used to look like it was straight out of a postcard. A picturesque island off the coast of Massachusetts. The bustling historic downtown, the seafront district, and the old lighthouse.